نحمد ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I will begin a series of lectures inshallah on the fasting of Ramadan, as opposed to any other fasting, whether it is for the purpose of health or any other reason. This is specifically the fast of Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan, which begins on the ninth, it is the ninth month of the Islamic calendar. The Muslims prior to that month, in the month of Shaban, which is on the 29th night, would head out to look shortly after sunset for the crescent. If the crescent is sighted, the next day would be the fast of Ramadan. If because of any obstruction, whether it is clouds or any other obstruction, that the moon is not sighted, then 30 days are completed in Shaban, in the month before, and after the 30 days, that is when the fast of Ramadan begins. We will talk about various aspects during this series of lectures, but today we will talk about what is fasting from the legal standpoint. We will then move on to who are those that are required to fast and who, if any, are exempt from the fast. What are those things that nullify the fast? It's important because when a fast is nullified, then if it is intentional, then there is an atonement that needs to occur. If it is by not by intention, then the fast is made up. Or if it's through forgetfulness that one breaks their fast, at that point that fast is not broken and it's continued. Then there are things that don't break the fast. We need to look at those, and what are those things that are offensive while fasting. So let's begin with and see what is exactly the definition, the legal definition of the fast of Ramadan. The fast of Ramadan is an obligation to abstain from eating, drinking, and marital intercourse from the start of dawn, which is Fajr, until the time of sunset, which is Maghrib, with an intention to the fast. As far as abstaining from eating, drinking, and marital intercourse, that is an obligation. But in addition to that, Muslims in general will refrain from obscenities, will refrain from any actions that of the eye, of the ear, of the tongue, and any other vice. For example, special attention is paid to guarding the tongue from profanity and backbiting, guarding the eye from obscenity, or the ear from listening to backbiting and slander and awful language. Muslims are urged to do good deeds, praiseworthy deeds throughout the year, but Ramadan holds a very special place and a reminder to return to God, to return to deeds that are praiseworthy and draw one closer to God. As far as the start of the time for fasting, which is Fajr, that is dawn, it is not, there are two kinds of dawn. For anybody who lives in the countryside or in a desert, they will know that there's a false dawn and there is a true dawn. This is true dawn. When true dawn occurs, at that point one cannot partake in any of these things that I have mentioned. Okay, so true dawn occurs when the light spreads across the horizon, as opposed to the false dawn, which is really one ray that occurs. It's a light that occurs on the horizon and goes straight up, but there is no light across the horizon. Then that ray disappears and there is darkness for a short while. After that, the light spreads across the horizon. That is true dawn. That is the time when the fast begins, and it ends at the time of sunset, which means that the sun must set below the horizon. At that time the fast is broken, or we have breakfast. So we have a what is known as iftar. The fast must be accompanied with an intention. Now, as far as the timing is concerned, most people in modern times don't go out to look for uh, the light of dawn, nor do they go around looking for sunset. Generally, what people are doing is that they have a calendar, and we know the exact timings for true dawn and the exact time for sunset, and that's calculated that way. But it's a good practice to know how to be able to perform this, because one never knows. There may be a need to do that without technology being available. As far as the intention is concerned, this is a special area to mention, because the intention holds a special place in Islam. Deeds are based upon intention. These are the words of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. He said that certainly deeds are based upon intention. So one may perform a good deed and be rewarded for it by the lawmaker, but at the same time one may intend to perform a good deed but may not be able to do it for whatever reason. They too are rewarded for that. So intention is important, and the intention of an obligation is therefore even more important. It is the intention has a place in the heart, okay, which means that it doesn't necessarily have to be brought upon the tongue. If you have it in your heart that you're intending to fast tomorrow as an obligatory fast of Ramadan for the sake of God, for the sake of Allah, that in itself is an intention, and one does not need to bring it upon their tongue. But if they do it, then it is praiseworthy. It is recommended to do that. However, the intention for the one who wakes up for suhoor, that in itself is counted as an intention. Suhoor is a time of the pre-dawn meal, and it's generally taken before dawn, but not too close to dawn where you risk falling into the time of the fasting, but close enough to dawn where you can have a decent meal and and perform your wudu and things like that for prayer that occurs after dawn. So that in itself, the suhoor in itself, is counted as an intention if you wake up. As far as examples of the wording of an intention, it has become urf and common amongst the people, common amongst the culture, to say something like nawaitu an asuma ghadan. I intended to fast tomorrow lillahi ta'ala, for the sake of Allah, min fardi Ramadan hada, from the obligation of this Ramadan. And that if somebody makes that intention during the nighttime. But if the intention occurs during the daytime, and I'm going to talk about the difference between these two, one can also say nawaitu an asuma hada al-yawm. I have intended to fast on this day lillahi ta'ala, for the sake of Allah, min fardi Ramadan, from the obligations of Ramadan. Okay. So one can memorize this, but again, just having a simple intention in your heart is sufficient, and having waking up for suhoor and partaking in that meal or drink is also considered your intention. As far as the timing is concerned, when should the intention be made? There is a difference of opinion. Well, the scholars do agree that it should occur during the night time. Imam Shafi and Imam Abu Hanifa, on the other hand, said that it could actually occur if it happens before the time of zawal, as long as it happens. Zawal is a time when the sun declines from the meridian point, from the highest point. When it goes into decline at that time, that's the time for prayer. It's the Zohar, it's the afternoon prayer time. At that time, as long as it's before that time, Imam Abu Hanifa's opinion was that it was still valid. Now, it's important that if it goes beyond zawal, then your fast is not valid, and it needs to be made up. and we will talk about that in a different video. However, that was a difference of opinion between two scholars in terms of the limit of when it occurs. Imam Shafi said that it must happen before Fajr or before dawn, otherwise it's not valid. And then Imam Tahawi and others had reconciled between the two, and he said that it was ideal that it be performed the night before the fasting day, but it's permissible if it goes up until the time of zawal. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq, give us the ability for us to follow his obligations of Ramadan, and for us to act upon all that is required of us, all that is the sunnat of the Prophet ﷺ, the way of the Prophet, in how he performed his fast, and to perform good actions and good deeds and feed people and give out in charity in this month of Ramadan, as I have mentioned before in another video on the benefits of Ramadan and the blessings of Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to see this month of Ramadan to its completion. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.